Daniel Brooks stood at the window of the orbital station and watched the alien ships approach. He was 53 years old, with gray hair at his temples and lines around his eyes. He had been Earth's representative to the Galactic Council for 8 years now. In that time, he had met dozens of alien species, learned their customs, and thought he understood how the galaxy worked. Today, he would learn he was wrong. Behind him, Admiral Karen Sullivan checked her tablet. She was a tall woman with sharp features and short black hair. She commanded Earth's entire defense fleet, though that fleet was small compared to what other species possessed. Next to her stood Dr. Peter Grant, a thin man with round glasses who looked more like a professor than humanity's chief scientist. The three of them waited in the conference room, watching the alien delegation dock with the station. Earth had joined the Galactic Council 23 years ago, not long after humans invented faster-than-light travel. The council was old, very old. It had existed for 12,000 years, or so they claimed. 47 different alien species belonged to it. When humanity first made contact, everyone on Earth had been excited. Finally, they were not alone in the universe. Finally, they could learn from older, wiser civilizations. The door opened. Ambassador Vector entered first. He was Xanthir, an insectoid species that stood nearly 8 feet tall. His body was covered in black plates that looked like armor, and his forearms moved with precise, controlled motions. His head was triangular, with large, multifaceted eyes and mandibles that clicked when he spoke. Behind him came 3 other aliens: a Lumari who looked like a being made of living crystal, a Delphin whose blue skin glistened with moisture, and a Kresh who resembled a large reptile walking on 2 legs. Daniel stepped forward and extended his hand. Vector touched it briefly with one of his clawed appendages. It was the human greeting, but the Xanthir did it without warmth. The group moved to the conference table, a long piece of synthetic wood with chairs sized for different body types. Daniel sat across from Vector. Karen and Peter sat on either side of him. The alien delegation arranged themselves opposite. Ambassador Brooks, Vector said. His voice came through a translator device, turning his clicking sounds into English. "We thank you for meeting with us today. The Council has sent us to discuss an important matter with your species." Daniel nodded. "Of course. How can humanity help the Council?" Vector's mandibles clicked several times. The translator did not convert this to words, which meant it was probably a gesture of some kind. "The Council has reviewed humanity's membership status. You have been part of our organization for over 2 decades. During this time, you have enjoyed the benefits of Council membership: access to trade routes, protection from hostile forces, knowledge sharing, diplomatic recognition." "Yes," Daniel agreed, "and humanity has contributed as well. We have shared our medical research, our agricultural techniques, and our cultural achievements." "Indeed," Vector said. "However, there is a fundamental obligation of Council membership that humanity has not yet fulfilled. All member species must pay tribute to the Council. This tribute maintains galactic stability, funds peacekeeping operations, and ensures the continued functioning of our government." Daniel felt something cold settle in his stomach. Next to him, Karen's hand tightened slightly on her tablet. Peter remained still, but his eyes were fixed on Vector with sudden intensity. "Tribute," Daniel said carefully. "No one mentioned this when we joined." "It is standard practice," the Lumari said. Her voice was like wind chimes, musical and strange. "All 46 other species pay tribute. It has been this way for thousands of years. Surely your species researched Council procedures before joining." "We researched what we could," Daniel replied. "The Council archives are extensive. Perhaps we missed this information." Vector pushed a data tablet across the table. "These are the tribute requirements for humanity. They are calculated based on your species' population, resources, and technological level. Please review them." Daniel picked up the tablet. As he read, his expression did not change, but his mind was racing. Peter leaned over to read as well. Karen watched the aliens, her face carefully neutral. The requirements were staggering. Humanity would need to give the Council 30% of all rare Earth elements and exotic materials they mined. These were the substances used in advanced technology, in starship engines and power cores. 30% of their entire production. Additionally, humanity would need to share all technological innovations and research with the Council immediately upon discovery. No patents, no delays, no exceptions. But the worst requirements came next. 5% of the human population would be required to work on Council infrastructure projects. Daniel did the math quickly in his head. Earth's population was 14 billion. 5% meant 700 million people. The document called them laborers, but Daniel knew slavery when he saw it, even if it wore a bureaucratic name. Finally, humanity would need to provide complete records of all military capabilities and installations. Fleet positions, weapon specifications, defense strategies. Everything that kept Earth safe would be handed over to the Council. Daniel set the tablet down gently. "This is quite extensive," he said. "It is proportional," Vector said. "Some species pay more, some less. It depends on their capacity. The Council has determined this is appropriate for humanity." "May I ask?" Peter said quietly. "How long has this system been in place?" The Kresh answered, his voice deep and rumbling. "The tribute system has maintained galactic peace for 12,000 years. It is the foundation of Council authority. Without it, chaos would consume the galaxy. And if a species cannot pay?" Karen asked. Her voice was calm, but there was steel underneath. Vector's mandibles clicked again. "All species can pay. The tribute is calculated to be achievable. It may require some adjustment of priorities, but it is always possible." "And if a species chooses not to pay?" Daniel asked. The room became very quiet. The Delphin's blue skin seemed to darken slightly. The Lumari's crystalline body stopped humming. A sound Daniel had not even noticed until it ceased. Vector leaned forward, his large eyes reflecting the lights of the room in 1,000 tiny fragments. "That would be most unwise," Vector said. "The Council has mechanisms to ensure compliance. Membership in the Council is not optional once granted. You cannot simply withdraw, and refusal to fulfill basic obligations would be seen as a threat to galactic stability. The Council takes such threats very seriously." Daniel met the alien's gaze without flinching. "I see, and when do you require our answer?" "The tribute system is not a negotiation," the Lumari said. Her voice had lost its musical quality. "It is a requirement of membership. However, we understand that you may need time to adjust your economic systems to comply. We can grant you 30 days to prepare your first payment." Daniel nodded slowly. He picked up the tablet again, scrolled through the requirements once more, then set it down. 30 days, he repeated. "We will need that time to review these requirements with our government. Earth's leadership will need to discuss this matter thoroughly." "There is nothing to discuss," the Kresh said. "This is how the galaxy works. This is how it has always worked." "Nevertheless," Daniel said, his voice still calm, "humanity will need time to consider. 30 days, as you offered. We will provide our formal response then." Vector stood. The other aliens followed. "Very well. 30 days. But understand, Ambassador Brooks, that this is not optional. The tribute will be paid. The only question is whether it will be paid voluntarily or collected by other means." Daniel stood as well. He extended his hand again. Vector touched it briefly, then the delegation left. The door closed behind them with a soft hiss. For a long moment, the three humans stood in silence, listening to the hum of the station's life support systems. Finally, Karen spoke. "That was a threat. A very clear threat." "Yes," Daniel agreed. He walked back to the window. The alien ships were undocking, preparing to leave. "They expect us to comply. They think we have no choice." Peter was still staring at the tablet. 700 million people, he said softly. "They want 700 million people. It's slavery," Karen said flatly. "They can call it labor contribution or infrastructure development or whatever bureaucratic term they want. But it's slavery, and they want us to hand over our entire military infrastructure. They want us helpless." Daniel turned from the window. His face was calm, but his eyes were hard. "We need to contact President Hayes immediately. And we need to do this quietly. No public announcements, no media leaks. If the Council thinks we're preparing to refuse, they might act before we're ready." "Ready for what?" Peter asked. Daniel looked at both of them. "I need to know something first. Can we fight them? If it comes to that, can we actually fight the Council?" Karen was quiet for a moment. Then she shook her head. "Not an open battle. They have hundreds of warships, Daniel. We have 43. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. In a straight fight, they would crush us." "Then we don't fight straight," Daniel said. He walked to the conference table and placed his hand on the alien tablet. "We have 30 days. We use every second of it. We research everything we can about this tribute." Dr. Lisa Martinez sat in a room with no windows. The walls were white, the lights were bright, and the door was locked from the outside. She had been there for 16 hours reading files on a secure computer terminal. Her coffee had gone cold 3 hours ago. She barely noticed. Lisa was 41 years old, a historian who specialized in alien civilizations. She had written 2 books about galactic culture and taught at the University of New Geneva on Mars. 3 days ago, military personnel had arrived at her home with a polite request that was not really a request. They needed her expertise. They needed it immediately. They could not tell her why until she agreed to come. She had agreed. Now she understood why they needed her. The files on her screen told a story that made her stomach turn. It was a story about the Galactic Council, about tribute, and about what happened to species that said no. The door opened. Dr. Kevin White entered, carrying 2 fresh cups of coffee. Kevin was younger than Lisa, only 35, but he was one of the best xenoanthropologists humanity had. He studied how alien species organized their societies, how they thought, how they made decisions. He looked as tired as Lisa felt. "Found something," Kevin said, handing her a coffee. He sat down at the terminal next to hers. Council records from 8,000 years ago. The tribute system didn't exist before then. Lisa turned to look at him. "But Vector said it was 12,000 years old." "He lied," Kevin said simply. "Or maybe he doesn't know the real history. But I found the original council charter, the one from 12,000 years ago. There's no mention of tribute. The early council was actually democratic. Member species contributed voluntarily and had equal votes." "What changed?" Lisa asked. Kevin pulled up a file on his screen. "War. 8,000 years ago there was a massive conflict. The council fought against something called the Independent Alliance, 27 species that refused to join the council. The war lasted 300 years. When it finally ended, the alliance was destroyed. Every single species either extinct or scattered." Lisa felt cold. "And after the war?" "After the war, the senior council races established the tribute system. They said it was necessary to prevent future conflicts, to maintain peace. But look at this." Kevin pointed at a section of the document. "The tribute requirements are designed to prevent any species from becoming strong enough to challenge the council. They drain resources, steal technology, and take population. It's not about peace. It's about control." The door opened again. Sandra Cole walked in looking grim. Sandra was an economist, someone who understood how resources and trade worked. She had been analyzing the financial aspects of the tribute system. She carried a tablet and did not bother with greetings. 97, Sandra said, sitting down heavily. "I found records of 97 species that have gone extinct or vanished since the tribute system was established. All of them refused to pay or tried to negotiate the terms." Lisa felt her hands tighten on her coffee cup. 97 species. "Some were destroyed militarily," Sandra continued. "Council fleets showed up and bombed their homeworlds. Others just disappeared. Their last communication would be a refusal to pay tribute and then nothing. No more messages, no more sightings, no traces. Just gone." Kevin leaned back in his chair. "So that's the choice. Pay tribute and slowly lose everything that makes you independent, or refuse and face extinction. There has to be another option," Lisa said. But even as she spoke, she was not sure she believed it. For the next week, the 3 researchers dug deeper. They were not alone. President Linda Hayes had assembled teams of experts across every field. Historians, military strategists, economists, scientists, diplomats, all working in secret, all trying to find a way out of an impossible situation. Lisa focused on the species that had survived paying tribute. She found 46 of them, the current council members aside from humanity. She read everything she could about their histories, their cultures, their development. A pattern emerged, and it was not encouraging. Every species that paid tribute became weaker over time. They started as independent civilizations with their own goals and achievements. But as decades turned into centuries, they changed. They stopped innovating because all their technology went to the council. They stopped expanding because their resources were drained. They stopped dreaming because their best and brightest were taken as laborers. The tribute system was not just exploitation. It was systematic cultural destruction. It turned proud civilizations into client states, dependent on the council for protection against threats that the council itself created. It was brilliant in a horrible way. The species being exploited could not even recognize what was happening because it happened so slowly. Kevin found something else. He discovered records of 3 species that had responded to the tribute demand with silence. They did not accept. They did not refuse. They simply stopped communicating with the Council and withdrew into their home systems. All three were destroyed within a year. The Council declared them threats to galactic stability and sent overwhelming force to eliminate them. They won't let us just leave, Kevin explained to President Hayes during a video conference. The president's face on the screen looked tired. She had not slept much in the past 2 weeks. The Council sees any non-response as defiance. They interpret silence as preparation for resistance, and they hit hard and fast before the species can organize a defense. What about negotiation? The president asked. Can we bargain for better terms? Sandra answered that question. No species has ever successfully negotiated. The Council interprets any attempt to change the terms as rejection. They don't compromise. Either you accept exactly what they demand or you face consequences. So our choices are submission or war, the president said quietly. Yes, Lisa said, and submission means the slow death of everything that makes humanity unique. In 300 years, we would be just another client species going through the motions paying tribute forever. Meanwhile, Admiral Karen Sullivan was conducting her own research. She had gathered every military mind Earth possessed to answer one question. Could they fight? The answer came back after 10 days of intensive analysis, and it was not what anyone wanted to hear. General Chris Bennett presented the findings to the president and the research team. Chris was 60 years old with gray hair and a face marked by decades of military service. He had fought in the Mars Uprising and the Belt Wars. He knew combat, and he knew when a fight was unwinnable. In direct confrontation, we lose, Chris said bluntly. The Council's senior races have weapons we can't match. They have ships that can destroy planets. They have technology that makes our best equipment look primitive. If they send a major fleet against Earth, we might hold them off for 3 weeks. Maybe 4 if we're lucky and they're stupid, but we will lose. What if we don't fight directly? President Hayes asked. Lieutenant Commander Amy Roberts spoke up. Amy was the head of military intelligence, a sharp woman with an analytical mind. We've been studying Council military doctrine. They rely on overwhelming force and shock tactics. They expect species to either surrender immediately or fight conventional battles they can't win. What they don't expect is asymmetric warfare combined with strategic withdrawal. Explain, the president said. We evacuate as many people as possible to hidden locations, Amy said. We prepare Earth's defenses not to win but to buy time. And we deploy unconventional weapons, things they won't expect, things that might give us a chance. What kind of weapons? Chris asked. Dr. Peter Grant had been quiet during most of these meetings. But now he spoke. We have something. It's experimental. Very experimental. We call it the Cascade Protocol. It's based on quantum entanglement theory. If it works, it could disable every ship in the solar system simultaneously. If it works, the president repeated. Peter nodded. The mathematics are solid. We've run simulations, but we've never tested it at full scale. We don't know if it will work as intended. It might do nothing. It might disable only some ships. It might work perfectly. Or it might have side effects we haven't predicted. What kind of side effects? Karen asked. Peter was quiet for a moment. It could create a quantum resonance field that prevents faster-than-light travel in the entire solar system. For months, maybe longer, both sides would be trapped here. The room went silent. Everyone understood what that meant. If the Cascade Protocol worked but created this side effect, humanity would be locked in the solar system with whatever Council forces came to attack them. No escape, no reinforcements for either side. Just a battle that would have to be fought to the finish. How long until we have to give the Council our answer? The president asked Daniel Brooks. 3 days, Daniel said. We've used 27 days researching. We have 3 days left. President Hayes looked at each person on the screens before her. Lisa Martinez, who had uncovered the truth about the Council's history. Kevin White, who had shown how the tribute system destroyed civilizations. Sandra Cole, who had counted the cost and destroyed species. General Bennett, who had assessed their military chances. Admiral Sullivan, who would lead the fleet if it came to war. Dr. Grant, who had a weapon that might save them or doom them. And Daniel Brooks, who would have to... On the morning of the 30th day, Daniel Brooks walked into the meeting room where Ambassador Vector was waiting. The Xanthir stood by the window, his forearms clasped behind his back, watching Earth below. He turned when Daniel entered. Ambassador Brooks, Vector said. His translator gave his words a formal tone. I trust you have prepared humanity's acceptance of the tribute terms. Daniel sat down at the table. He had a single sheet of paper in his hand. He placed it on the table and slid it across to Vector. This is humanity's formal response. Vector picked up the paper with one clawed hand. He read it. The silence stretched for several seconds. When he looked up, his mandibles were clicking rapidly, a sign of agitation that Daniel had learned to recognize. This is a refusal, Vector said. Yes, Daniel said calmly. Humanity declines the tribute terms as presented. You understand what this means, Vector said. His voice had changed, becoming harder. This is not a negotiation. The tribute is a requirement of council membership. By refusing, you place yourself in violation of galactic law. We understand, Daniel said. His face showed no fear, no anger, just calm certainty. Nevertheless, that is our answer. The council will respond, Vector warned. You cannot imagine the force that will come for you. Species far stronger than yours have tried to resist. All have been destroyed. You are making a mistake that will cost your people everything. Daniel stood. Thank you for your time, Ambassador Vector. We appreciate the council giving us the opportunity to consider the matter thoroughly. Vector stared at him. In all his decades serving the council, he had never encountered a species that refused tribute with such calm. Usually there was rage or fear, or desperate attempts to negotiate. This human simply sat there, polite and composed, as if he had just declined an invitation to dinner rather than signed his species' death warrant. You are fools, Vector said finally. He left without another word. Daniel remained in the room after the alien departed. He looked out at Earth, at the blue oceans and white clouds. Somewhere down there, 4 billion people were being quietly moved to safe locations. The largest evacuation in human history was underway, and most of Earth's population did not even know it was happening. The operation was being run by Jake Morris, the colonial administrator. Jake was 55 years old, a big man with a practical mind who had spent 30 years organizing the logistics of space colonization. If anyone could move 4 billion people without causing mass panic, it was Jake. He worked with Helen Pierce, a logistics expert who could calculate cargo capacities and travel times in her head. Together they had planned every detail. Which ships would go where? Which families would be moved first? How to supply the hidden bases that would shelter the evacuees? How to do all of this without alerting the Council's observers on Earth? The hidden bases had been built over 20 years, officially registered as deep space research stations. They were scattered throughout the outer solar system and beyond, in places the Council had never bothered to look. Some were on remote asteroids. Others were on moons of the outer planets. A few were completely mobile, built into massive converted cargo ships that could drift in the dark between stars. The evacuation was voluntary. President Hayes had been clear about that. Anyone who wanted to stay and defend Earth could do so. Surprisingly, or perhaps not surprisingly, 3 billion people chose to stay. Some were military personnel who felt it was their duty. Others were elderly who did not want to leave their homes. Many were simply people who refused to run, who would rather die defending their planet than live as refugees. The ships moved in carefully planned routes, using natural cover and electronic stealth to avoid Council sensors. They traveled dark, with minimal power signatures looking like ordinary cargo vessels or mining craft. Over 18 days, the exodus continued without a single incident. 4 billion humans simply vanished from Council tracking systems, replaced by carefully maintained communication signals and false heat signatures that made Earth's population appear unchanged. Admiral Karen Sullivan supervised the military preparations. Earth's defense fleet consisted of 43 warships, ranging from massive battlecruisers to small, fast frigates. Karen knew they could not win a straight fight against a Council enforcement fleet, but they did not need to win. They just needed to survive long enough for Dr. Grant's weapon to work. The visible fleet remained in standard defensive positions around Earth, but 50 smaller vessels were deployed in secret. These were stealth frigates modified with experimental technology that made them nearly invisible. Each carried a crew of only 20 people. Each was equipped with the quantum emitters that would form part of the Cascade Protocol. Captain Ryan Foster commanded one of these stealth ships, designated Echo 7. Ryan was 38 years old, a career officer who had served on 7 different vessels. His ship was currently positioned near Saturn, powered down to minimal levels, floating like a piece of space debris. Inside, his crew waited in the cold and dark, monitoring their equipment and conserving resources. "How long do we wait?" his second officer asked. "As long as it takes," Ryan said. "When the Council fleet arrives, we stay quiet until we get the signal. Then we activate the emitter and hope Dr. Grant's math is correct." In a laboratory deep beneath Earth's surface, Dr. Peter Grant worked on the Cascade Protocol with his team. Dr. Nicole Adams handled the quantum calculations, checking and rechecking the equations that would determine whether the weapon worked. Martin Cooper, the chief engineer, assembled the control systems that would coordinate all 50 emitters simultaneously. "The problem is synchronization," Nicole explained to Peter. "If even one emitter fires early or late, the cascade effect collapses. We need perfect timing across the entire solar system. We're talking about microsecond precision." "Can we do it?" Peter asked. "Theoretically, yes," Nicole said. "We've built quantum clocks into each emitter. They're all linked through entanglement, so they should remain synchronized regardless of distance. But we've never tested this at full scale." Martin looked up from his work. "Even if the timing is perfect, we don't know what will happen. The simulations show the cascade should disable ship power cores. But simulations aren't reality, and there's the field effect to consider." The field effect was what kept Peter awake at night. The quantum disruption that would disable the Council ships would also create a resonance field throughout the solar system. This field would interfere with faster-than-light travel, trapping everyone in the Sol system for months until it dissipated naturally. If the Council sent a large fleet, humanity would be trapped with them. No retreat, no reinforcements, just a final battle. "How are the odds looking?" Peter asked. Nicole did not sugarcoat it. 40% chance of complete success, 30% chance of partial success where we disable some ships but not all, 20% chance of total failure, 10% chance of catastrophic malfunction that could damage our own systems worse than theirs. "So basically a coin flip," Martin said. "Basically," Nicole agreed. Peter looked at the weapon they had built. It did not look impressive. Just a room full of equipment, cables, and computer terminals. But if it worked, it would be humanity's salvation. If it failed, it would change nothing except perhaps giving them a few extra hours before the end. Above ground, life continued with eerie normalcy. The people who remained on Earth knew what was coming. The government had been honest about the situation. But there was no panic in the streets, no riots, no chaos. People went to work. Children attended school. Families had dinner together. It was as if humanity had collectively decided that if these were their last days, they would spend them living rather than cowering. This quiet confidence disturbed the Council observers who monitored Earth. They reported back that humanity appeared completely unprepared for the consequences of their refusal. Cities remained lit, traffic moved normally, and communications continued without interruption. It made no sense. Every other species that had refused tribute had either mobilized for war or descended into panic. Humans did neither. What the Council observers did not see was the network of hidden preparations. The weapons being positioned, the civilians being evacuated, the trap being set. Humanity had learned something important over their short history. Show your enemy what they expect to see, and they will not look for what they do not expect. 3 days after Daniel delivered humanity's refusal, the Council announced that an enforcement fleet was being dispatched to Sol. The announcement was broadcast across all galactic channels. It included a detailed description of what would happen. First, destruction of military installations. Second, bombardment of infrastructure. Third, systematic targeting until compliance was achieved. The announcement was meant to terrify. The Council expected humanity to reconsider, to send desperate messages begging for mercy, to offer compromise. Instead, Earth's official response came from President Hayes herself. It was a simple video message, only 2 minutes long. "To the Galactic Council," the President said, her voice calm and steady, "we have received your announcement. We understand the consequences of our decision. We will not change our position. Humanity." Fleet Commander Zar then watched the human homeworld grow larger on his display screens. His 300 warships moved through space in perfect formation, a display of power that had terrified civilizations for thousands of years. Every ship was a weapon capable of destroying cities. Together, they could reduce an entire planet to lifeless rock within days. The humans had 43 ships defending their world. Zarthan had seen the intelligence reports. Human vessels were crude compared to Council technology. Their weapons were less powerful. Their shields were weaker. Their crews were inexperienced in galactic warfare. This should be over quickly. Yet something bothered Zarthan. The human ships held position in standard defensive formation, but they had not powered their weapons to full capacity. Earth below showed no signs of panic or preparation. Cities remained lit. Communications continued normally. It was as if the humans did not understand the threat they faced, or as if they knew something he did not. "Broadcast the ultimatum," Zarthan ordered. His communication officer transmitted the message on all human frequencies. The ultimatum was simple and brutal. Humanity had 1 hour to accept the tribute terms. If they refused, the fleet would begin bombardment of military installations. This would be followed by destruction of orbital infrastructure. Finally, if necessary, population centers would be targeted until compliance was achieved. This was Council standard procedure. It had worked 97 times before. Aboard the Victory, Admiral Karen Sullivan listened to the ultimatum without expression. Her bridge crew remained quiet, focused on their stations. She looked at the tactical display showing the Council fleet. 300 ships against 43. On paper, it was hopeless, but humanity had always excelled at rewriting what was possible. 58 minutes remaining, her tactical officer announced. Karen nodded. "Maintain position. Prepare the response transmission for broadcast at the 30-second mark." The hour passed slowly. On Earth, people gathered in homes and public spaces watching the sky. They knew what was happening above their heads. They knew what was coming. But there was no screaming, no running, no chaos. Just quiet determination. If these were humanity's last moments, they would face them with dignity. In the orbital station where this had all begun, Daniel Brooks sat with Dr. Peter Grant. They watched the countdown timer together. Peter's hand rested on a control panel. When the time came, he would activate the Cascade Protocol. If it worked, it would save humanity. If it failed, it would change nothing except perhaps giving them a few more hours. 30 seconds, the tactical officer announced. "Transmit our response," Karen ordered. The communication went out to the Council fleet and to every listening station in the solar system. Daniel Brooks's voice was clear and calm. "We acknowledge your ultimatum. Humanity declines. We will not pay tribute. We will not surrender our freedom. We will not allow you to enslave any member of our species. We hoped for peace. You have chosen war. So be it." The transmission ended. Zarthan sat back in his command chair, genuinely surprised. He had expected begging or at least some attempt at negotiation. Instead, the humans had simply said no. He felt a moment of something he had not experienced in decades: uncertainty. What kind of species faced annihilation with such calm? But he was a soldier. Uncertainty did not change his orders. "All ships," he commanded. "Commence bombardment." 300 warships opened fire simultaneously. Beams of coherent energy lanced across space toward Earth and its orbital defenses. The display was beautiful and terrible. Each beam carried enough power to vaporize a building. Hundreds of beams created a storm of destruction. Earth's defensive grid activated. Shield generators flared to life, creating barriers of electromagnetic force. Point defense systems fired, trying to intercept the beams. Electronic countermeasures attempted to confuse the targeting systems. For a few seconds, the defenses held. Then the first orbital platform died. Its shields collapsed under sustained fire and its structure exploded in a bright flash. Then another platform died. And another. The human defenses were fighting well, but they were overwhelmed. This was simple mathematics. Too many attackers, not enough defenders. "Now," Peter Grant said quietly. He pressed the activation button. Across the solar system, 50 quantum emitters powered up simultaneously. They were positioned on asteroids, on satellites, on the stealth ships that the Council did not know existed. Each emitter was linked to the others through quantum entanglement, perfectly synchronized despite the vast distances between them. The Cascade Protocol activated. At first, nothing visible happened. The weapon did not fire beams or launch missiles. It simply altered the quantum state of space itself within the solar system. The effect propagated outward at the speed of light, invisible and unstoppable. On Zarthan's flagship, an alarm began to sound. "Commander," his engineer reported, We're detecting unusual quantum fluctuations throughout the system. I don't understand the readings. This signature doesn't match any known weapon. What kind of fluctuations? Zarthan demanded. I don't know, wait. Commander, our power core is destabilizing. No, not destabilizing. It's shutting down. I'm trying to prevent it, but the reaction just stopped. It's like the quantum coupling has been disrupted at the fundamental level. Across the Council fleet, the same thing was happening. Power cores that had run continuously for decades simply stopped functioning. Not explosively, not catastrophically, just stopped. Life support remained active because it ran on backup systems. But weapons, shields, engines, everything that required main power, all of it went offline. Within 3 minutes, every ship in the Council fleet was dead in space. They drifted on momentum, unable to maneuver, unable to fight, unable to do anything except maintain life support and watch as their systems failed. The human defensive grid was also affected. About 40% of Earth's systems lost power, but Karen had known this would happen. The Cascade Protocol could not discriminate between Council ships and human ships. It affected all power cores based on similar quantum principles. The difference was that humanity had prepared for it. Their backup systems were already online, maintaining critical defenses. Effect confirmed, Peter reported to Daniel. The Cascade worked. Council fleet is disabled, but the resonance field is stronger than predicted. No faster than light travel will be possible in this system for at least 4 months, maybe longer. Daniel understood immediately. The Council fleet was trapped. But so was humanity. Both sides were locked in the solar system until the quantum field dissipated naturally. Whatever happened next, there would be no reinforcements, no escape, no second chances. Admiral Sullivan, Daniel said over the communication link. The fleet is yours. Do what needs to be done. Karen stood on her bridge looking at the display of 300 disabled Council ships. This was the moment that would define humanity's future. They could destroy the fleet now. The Council ships were helpless. But that would make humanity the aggressors, the destroyers. It would justify everything the Council said about them. Or they could do something different, something the Council would not expect. All ships, Karen ordered. Launch boarding parties. Secure the Council vessels. Use of force is authorized only in self-defense. Treat prisoners according to the rules of war. We're going to capture this fleet intact. The stealth frigates revealed themselves, powering up their systems and moving toward the disabled Council ships. Boarding pods launched, magnetically attaching to hulls. Human Marines in powered armor entered the Council vessels, moving through corridors with weapons ready. Colonel Gary Stevens led one of the boarding teams. He was 44 years old, a veteran of the Belt Wars, experienced in zero-gravity combat. His team entered a Council cruiser through an airlock. They found the alien crew confused and frightened, trying to understand what had happened to their ship. We are securing this vessel, Gary announced through his suit's translator. You will not be harmed if you comply. Remain at your stations and follow instructions. The alien crew looked at each other. They had no weapons that could penetrate human-powered armor. Their ship had no power to resist. Slowly, they put down what tools they carried and placed their hands or appendages in positions of surrender. Gary's team secured the bridge without firing a shot. Across the fleet, the same scene repeated 300 times. Council crew surrendered, shocked by what had happened. In all their centuries of warfare, they had never encountered a weapon like this. They had never been so completely defeated so quickly. And they had never been treated with courtesy by their captors. Tsar then sat in his command chair as human Marines entered his bridge. Their armor made them look like metal giants. Their weapons were aimed but not threatening. The Marine leader approached him. Fleet Commander Zarthan, the human said, I am Colonel Gary Stevens of Earth Defense Forces. You and your crew are now prisoners of war. You will be transported to a secure location and held until a resolution can be reached between humanity and the Council. Do you understand? Zarthan understood. He understood that he had just experienced something unprecedented. His fleet, the pride of the Council, had been captured intact. 300 warships and 70,000 crew. News of the fleet's capture spread through the galaxy at the speed of light. The Galactic Council chambers erupted in chaos. 300 warships captured intact. 70,000 crew members held prisoner. The enforcement fleet that was supposed to crush humanity in days had been defeated without firing an effective shot. It was impossible. It was unprecedented. It was terrifying. The senior council members gathered in emergency session. The Xanthir representative was furious. demanding immediate retaliation. The Lumari urged caution, noting that they did not yet understand the weapon humanity had used. The Delphins calculated the cost of sending another fleet. The Kresh reminded everyone that Zarthan's offspring was among the captured crew. Ambassador Vekthor stood before the council and gave his report. He had been the last council representative to meet with humans before the war began. He described Daniel Brooks's calm demeanor, the complete lack of fear or anger, the simple statement of refusal. They knew exactly what they were doing, Vekthor said. They planned every detail, and they defeated us with a weapon we did not know existed. Then we send another fleet, the Xanther leader declared. A larger one. We cannot allow this defiance to stand. We cannot send another fleet, the Lumari responded. The humans have created a quantum disruption field throughout their solar system. No faster than light travel is possible there for months. Any fleet we send would take years to arrive by conventional means. And they would face the same weapon that disabled the first fleet. Then what do you propose? The Xanther demanded. That we simply accept this humiliation? I propose, a quiet voice said, that we consider the possibility that we have made a mistake. The council chamber went silent. The speaker was a junior member, a representative from a species that had been paying tribute for 6,000 years. Speaking against the senior members was dangerous, but the representative continued. For millennia we have paid tribute. We have given our resources, our technology, our people. We accepted this because we were told it was necessary for galactic peace. But now a species has refused and the galaxy has not collapsed. Perhaps the system we have accepted is not as necessary as we believed. Other junior members began to speak, expressing thoughts they had kept silent for centuries. The tribute system was crushing their civilizations. They resented the constant drain on their resources. They wondered if the council truly protected them or simply controlled them. The voice of dissent grew louder. The senior members realized they faced a crisis far worse than one defeated fleet. If they could not respond to humanity's defiance, other species might follow. The entire system that had kept them in power for thousands of years could collapse. They needed to act, but carefully. Any show of weakness would encourage rebellion. Any show of excessive force might unite the junior members against them. While the council debated, President Linda Hayes authorized a message to be sent by conventional means. It would take weeks to reach council space, but that was acceptable. The message was simple and direct, sent in Daniel Brooks's voice. To the Galactic Council, humanity holds your enforcement fleet and its crew. All prisoners are being treated well and according to the rules of war. We propose the following terms for their release. The terms were not what the council expected. Humanity did not demand territory or resources. They did not ask for council technology or trade advantages. Instead, they requested three things. First, complete abolition of the tribute system for all council species. Second, recognition of human sovereignty and territorial integrity. Third, establishment of a new council charter giving equal representation to all member species. The message continued. We will share the complete technical specifications of our quantum disruption weapon, so that it can never be used against the Council again. We seek not conquest but coexistence. We do not want to destroy the Council, but to reform it into what it was meant to be, a voluntary association of free species working together for mutual benefit. These terms are non-negotiable. You have 3 months to consider them. At that time, the quantum field will dissipate and we will expect your answer. When the message reached the Council, the senior members were outraged. The humans were demanding they surrender power they had held for millennia. The Xanther leader called it an insult. But the junior members saw it differently. They saw hope. Finally, someone was challenging the system that had oppressed them for so long. 17 junior member species issued a joint statement supporting humanity's terms. They declared that if the Council rejected the proposal, they would withdraw from the Council entirely. The threat was clear. The old order was crumbling. The Council could adapt or face dissolution. For weeks, the Council debated. Humanity's terms were discussed from every angle. Could they trust humans to keep their word? Was the tribute system truly necessary? What would happen if they reformed the Council? Would chaos follow, or would a new, better order emerge? The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Fleet Commander Zarthan requested permission to address the Council directly. This was highly irregular, as he was technically a prisoner and his command was disgraced by defeat. But the council was desperate for information about the humans, so they agreed. Tsar then spoke via video link from the victory. He described his months observing humans. They keep their promises, he said. They treat prisoners with dignity. They fight when necessary but prefer peace. They defeated us completely but did not destroy us. This is not the behavior of a species that seeks conquest. These are beings who genuinely believe in the principles they state. He continued, My people have ruled through fear for 10,000 years. We have maintained power through force and intimidation. But these humans have shown us something different. They have shown us that it is possible to be strong without being cruel, to win without destroying, to lead without dominating. Perhaps, and here his voice grew quiet, perhaps it is time we learned from them. The speech changed everything. Zarthan was a military hero, a commander who had crushed 7 rebellions. If he believed the humans were sincere, perhaps they were. If he recommended accepting their terms, perhaps that was the wise course. The senior members realized they had lost the debate. Public opinion across the galaxy supported reform. Their own military leader advised compromise. If they continued to resist, they would be the ones isolated. 3 months after the battle, as the quantum field began to dissipate, the Council sent its response. They accepted humanity's terms with some modifications. The tribute system would be abolished. A new council charter would be drafted giving equal votes to all members. The senior races would retain advisory roles in recognition of their experience, but these would be consultative rather than authoritative. Most importantly, membership in the council would be voluntary. Any species could withdraw without punishment. In return, humanity agreed to share defensive technology with all council members. Not weapons, but the understanding of quantum mechanics that would allow other species to protect themselves against similar attacks. The technical data on the Cascade Protocol was provided as promised, allowing the Council to develop countermeasures. The captured fleet was returned to its crews fully repaired. Human engineers had worked alongside Council personnel to restore the disabled ships. This gesture of goodwill surprised many. Zarthan personally thanked Admiral Sullivan before departing. You defeated us with a weapon, he said, but you won with principle. That is a far greater victory. The reformed Galactic Council convened 6 months later. The chambers looked different. Species that had sat in subordinate positions now occupied equal seats arranged in a circle. There was no longer a hierarchy, only peers working together. The first order of business was a formal apology to the 97 species that had been destroyed for refusing tribute. Memorial markers were commissioned. Restitution funds were established for survivors and descendants. Daniel Brooks attended as humanity's representative, along with Jennifer Blake, a career diplomat who would serve as humanity's primary counselor. They did not dominate the proceedings. Humanity had one voice among many, and they used it sparingly, offering suggestions but mostly listening and learning from species with far more galactic experience. Dr. Lisa Martinez became humanity's chief diplomatic historian. Her job was to study the Council's past mistakes and help ensure they were not repeated. Dr. Peter Grant shared human scientific knowledge freely, working with Council researchers to advance technology for all species. The hidden colony arcs that had sheltered 4 billion humans during the crisis were converted back to research stations, this time serving their official purpose of studying deep space phenomena. 20 years later, the reformed Council had become everything humanity had envisioned. Trade flourished among equal partners. Technology was shared openly. Conflicts were resolved through negotiation rather than force. The old tribute system was remembered as a dark age, its abolition celebrated annually across the galaxy. Some former senior race members still grumbled about lost privileges, but even they admitted the galaxy was more prosperous and stable under the new system. The story of humanity's refusal became a legend told across the galaxy. It was not a tale of supernatural powers or destiny. It was a story of ordinary,